In this last video of our training, we are going to see After Effects in action. So we are going to create a practical use of the tools we have studied before. So I have my new project right here where I've created some clips, and I start creating my new composition with a PAL D1 DV resolution at 25 frames per second. The duration is 10 seconds, as you can see here below. I click OK. I say fit up to 100%, so to give the best magnification of my view, and I start putting my background inside my composition. I scale my background proportionally with the shift button pressed on my keyboard, and also I want my composition name as base. Okay, now I've created my first base timeline composition, and I want to create a new composition. I want to name it Martini and a duration of 1 second. As you can see here, I'm filling up these numbers. These mean 1 second. And inside this new composition, I want to drag my martini.psd clip. I want to scale it down just a little bit, like this. And I want to position it on the main left side, just here. I click on the stopwatch right here. I move my timeline at the end of the second, so at the end of my timeline, and I want to move my martini on the right side, just to create a simple movement, animation movement like this one. Now I go back to my base composition and I drag onto my background my martini composition, not the martini clip. Of course, the image contains an alpha channel, so there is a transparency on the background, and I can see only my glass moving. And with this layer selected, I want to create an effect, time echo. With this, let's zoom a little bit, I create a time shift of 0.1 and a number of 4 martini. My first martini has to be around 70% solid, like this one. Just move a little bit more in time, and I want a decay about 62% each one. So the last one is really look like a ghost. So fit up to 100%. Let's start. I have my martini moving onto my composition. At this point in time, the martini animation is finished. So I move back to my project window and I drag my next layer. The next layer is Ghost. I put just on top of martini is the image of this woman. This layer contains also an alpha channel. I drag my EM point at this moment in time, so my image is not visible before, and more or less at 3 seconds and a half, about here, I place my out point like this. Okay. Now at the end of my clip, I want to scale up this image. I want to fix the scale and the position with a keyframe. I want to go back at the beginning right here. I scale down my layer and I want to position it just in the middle of the hole between the layers, the trees. Now, just few photographs after the layer containing the girl appear, I want an opacity of this layer around the 80%, like now. And at the beginning, exactly at the beginning, I want the opacity at about 0%. So the image appear. It has to stay solid until here, so I place another keyframe here, clicking in this button, and I go to the end and I put a value of its opacity back to 0. Now this layer is too sharpy, is very clear and visible, so I want to change this image with an effect. I have to right click onto my layer, effects, blur and sharpen, and I want to put a Gaussian blur onto this layer with a value about 2-3 pixels. Also, I want to put another effect, distort, liquify. Here it is. Now with this tool I have just to choose any moment in time, for instance this one. I zoom a little bit my image, and with this twirl tool I'm creating a distortion onto this image. Okay, I create a keyframe for this distortion. I move in time just few frames. I zoom out, I open a little bit my brush size like this, maybe my brush pressures, and I want to distort more this image. Okay, it has created just for me my new keyframe. So going further, I want to change once again the shape of this image. This way, and maybe once more feed up to 100% so we can see just the visible part and work on it. Okay, just one more shape transformation. Okay, now from the beginning I want to put a distortion keyframe about 0%. So this means that I don't want any influence about my liquify transformation onto this layer, but at the end I want a distortion at about 200%, just to give an extra value for this distortion.